Hello again. I want to kind of take up where we left off last time. And I want to speak about uh, my presuppositions and the logos and how I see uh, the creative source, how I see spirituality, and how they all fit together in to one nice whole, a holistic system. First of all, my first presupposition is that the universe, and thereby the creation of the universe, is consciousness. And that has been a historical position for years and years and years. But with the advent of materialism and the scientific discoveries, that model of thought was left in favor of a materialistic view of the universe, including the Big Bang Theory and all of the things that cosmology and science teaches us. And while I don't discount uh, cosmological physics uh, at all in understanding the nature of the universe, I think that quantum mechanics, along with cognitive science and certain areas of biological science, have altered to a great degree that materialistic view. And I'm of the opinion, my presupposition is that consciousness is something outside of and beyond the brain. I'm not conscious because I have a brain that has evolved into consciousness. I'm conscious because my brain, among other parts of my anatomy, are a receptacle or a receiver of conscious thought. And so therefore there is a universal consciousness in my view. Aldous Huxley called it the mind at large. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. Some people call it collective consciousness. It's called cosmic consciousness. But it is the assumption that consciousness exists outside of material reality, and that it is almost what one would call a spiritual substance. I think that the thing that the ancients, especially in Christianity, called spirituality is really conscious and conscious energy. I think that it's a combination of thought and energy together that actually causes material existence to come into being when we observe it. Now, I guess that puts me in a position of being a panentheist at the very least. I also see that panpsychism has some very good points about it. And one of the cognitive scientists that I regularly follow, Donald Hoffman from Stanford, is not a big proponent of panpsychism. But I believe, and I may be wrong, but I believe that Rupert Sheldrake, the biologist who has developed the theory of fields of morphic resonance, is panpsychic. And basically what panpsychic means is that consciousness is in everything. That everything has a form of consciousness, at least, whether elaborate or not. There is a certain amount of consciousness in all of material reality. And a lot of the experiments in quantum mechanics have kind of established that idea. So it's not completely woo-woo. So I also then am presupposing that a lot of what was taught about alchemy and the alchemists that can manifest and manipulate matter with thought, with meditation, I believe that that is not only possible, I think that it's very probable. And I would say that the reason that most people are not manifesting everything they want all the time, it isn't from lack of the ability to do so, but it is from the fact that we are each points of consciousness within the greater consciousness, within the all, as it's called in the Hermetica. But we are points of consciousness within cosmic consciousness or universal consciousness or the mind at large. And in being that, I believe that the law of correspondence that's mentioned in the Kabbalion, as above, so below, as below, so above, as within, so without, as without, so within, I believe that that is a solid understanding of how things work. And so what we see in the material world is mirrored in the spiritual world. And so we see groups and committees that decide on various programs in our society and in the natural world. And so it only makes sense that that same thing exists at the soul level or at the consciousness level. And so therefore there are groups of consciousness, points of consciousness, that have in committee decided on various life paths and various outcomes and various learning experiences. And I think that free will comes into the place that before ever entering into the material plane, we choose freely our life path. And sometimes in choosing that, we lock in certain experiences. Now, if we are eternal and the material existence is temporal, which it is, then the temporal experiences that we lock ourselves into do not affect us eternally. And if everything is happening, as I believe it is, in the present, in the all-encompassing now, time is an illusion. And so therefore to make judgments about the life path that we choose, the challenges that we choose, the trials or the fortunes that we end up experiencing in cosmic terms, in eternal terms, they are not as significant as one would think, locked into a 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 year life experience. And so this is some of my thinking now. And I believe that it is based on a good foundation, because these ideas go all the way back at least 7,000 years. They were embraced by Hermes in thought, the Egyptian. They were embraced by Pythagoras, by Plato, by the Greek philosophers, the Stoics, Heraclitus. They were embraced by Philo, the Jewish philosopher. They were embraced by Lao Tzu and the author of Taoism. They were understood and believed by those that originated Hinduism and Buddhism, the Native American, indigenous shamanism. And so it's a widespread belief that bridges millennia. And the icing on the cake, in my view, is the recent scientific breakthroughs that substantiate the fact that the universe is a mental construct. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm at about 12 minutes now, and I'm going to leave it here. I want to announce that I have a new treat coming up, because I have been able to talk my wife into sharing with me in these presentations. She's a very spiritual person, and she's had a journey of spiritual abuse and trauma within Christianity, and she has a lot of insight about that. And so we're going to be talking in two tracks. We're going to be talking about eclectic spirituality, syncretistic spirituality, and we're also going to be talking about and bringing to light the spiritual abuse that is absolutely widespread throughout, especially evangelical Christianity. And we all know of the tragedy that has been reported about Catholicism with priests and abuse. But now, recently uncovered, we see that that same kind of abuse is present, widely spread within the Southern Baptist Convention. And I can tell you, from having been in the ministry and having been in Pentecostal ministries, that that's just the tip of the iceberg, because the depth of abuse that has gone on in all of these areas is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And I believe that it'll be brought to light as we move toward the age of Aquarius. I hope you enjoyed this, and I want you to stay tuned. I especially want you to join in and watch when I and my wife get together on these videos. And I would love to have you like, and I would love to have you subscribe, and I would love to have you share, because I would really appreciate the ability to get these concepts out more into the mainstream. And wherever you're at, whenever you're watching this video, whether it's morning, noon, evening, in the middle of the night, just stay great. The world is a great place, And you are greatly loved by the creative source.